thank you all for joining us for our SICSS-Howard Mathematica Lunchtime Talk with Gabe Varela and Katherine Zaslavsky from varyCSS. During these chats while you chew, you'll meet interesting people or organizations that are doing cool and complementary work to what you're currently learning about in the Summer Institute at Howard. If you don't have your lunch yet, hit pause. For those of you with food and beverage in hand, let's get started.
Hi, everyone. Thank you, Nanette and the team at SICSS-Howard Mathematica for inviting us today and giving us the opportunity to chat about our progress with the varyCSS project. Some of you might know that we were invited last year. Tina and Taylor, which we'll present them as well as part of our team, came in and chatted about sort of the beginning of the project, the source of why it got created and how they got together and met and started this whole thing. So I really recommend that you check out those videos. We'll have them linked as well, I believe, in the chat. We can do that during the Q&A. So my name is Gabriel, pronouns are he, him, and I'm a PhD candidate at Duke University. I personally got plugged into varyCSS after chatting with Taylor, who is a Duke sociology alum, now actually defended her dissertation. She was giving me really good advice about how to survive graduate school, to be honest. And at that point, telling me a little bit about varyCSS and the ideas they had going on. And that's a way that I felt I could be plugged in. I'm also a SICSS alum. I felt like something needed to be done. It was very clear that something needed to be done, but I didn't feel confident personally in what I could be doing. There are a lot of ways to be plugged in, but it was unclear what I would be best at. And this felt like really something I could engage in and use sort of the things I already knew when it comes to coding and programming, and my little knowledge of CSS and sociology in particular to move that ahead a little bit. Personally, my work focuses on social network conditions that empower individuals to engage with chronic disability identities. And I'll let Katherine introduce themselves.
Thank you so much. Yeah, my name's Katherine. I'm a PhD candidate at Cornell University. My pronouns are she, they, and I'm really excited to be here because the reason that I got involved in varyCSS is that I was really tired of all of the CSS spaces, all of the computational social science spaces, but also just science more broadly, valuing science above people. And that just really goes against my own ethos as a person. It really goes against a lot of what I was going through as a person at that time. And so I happened to connect with Taylor. She was incredible at having these conversations about what matters in science, what matters in computational social science. And we got really close to the heart of, what questions should we be asking, which I felt in a lot of computational spaces, we're just not asking those questions. So I was really happy to discover this space. I was really happy to meet wonderful people like Gabriel. And I hope that we can share some of our work with you and show you how our experiences have been and tell you if you want to get involved, you can get involved with us. So I'm going to start by sharing our website. So if you go to varycss.org, this is our website. As you can see, we've got a few tabs up that have different information about us. We'll start with the About Us. So the About Us page covers the people who you might recognize, Nanette, and you might know some other people who are on this page. Taylor and Tina, the co-founders, and then we have Aiden, Guidance, Gabriel, Ike, Lindsay, and myself. And so these are just people who we attend meetings. We talk about the ethos of the entire group. We talk about why it matters that we care about diversifying computational social science, because when a lot of people, as you know, talk about diversifying science, talk about diversifying academia, we mean a lot of different things. So we will dive a little bit deeper into what we mean by that. On this page, we have a list of speakers. So these are people who don't necessarily attend our meetings where we talk about the nature of the group, but this is a resource that we want to offer to our community more broadly. And so this is a speaker database where we have people who have professed interest in computational social science and also who identify as up and coming rising stars in the field of computational social science and who are doing work that we think everyone should care about. So we have a lot of names on this page and you're welcome to scroll through on your own time. But I want to point us back towards the top of the page where if you would like, you can add to our database by filling out a form here. And so as you can see, this is just a Google form. And if you would like to nominate yourself or you would like to nominate any other emerging scholars, you are welcome to do that. And we ask for some information about the type of work that you do. We ask for information about what types of CSS work you do specifically. And we ask for information about how people can connect with you. So we've invested in adding a lot of people through this nomination form. And what we're working on right now is trying to verify with these people, first of all, are they interested in being in the database? Is their information correct? Because we know that representation really matters. And how can we basically just make this the best possible database? So we are doing steady work on this. And as I said, if you're interested in getting involved and helping us out, then please feel free to contact us and we'll tell you how at the end of the talk. This is a list of groups that we really admire the work of. And so as you can see, we've got a lot of groups that you're probably familiar with, maybe some groups that you're not as familiar with. And so this is just, again, an ongoing collection of websites and groups that exist that can help anyone who's interested in getting more involved in computational social science, but like many of us, I'm imagining, has maybe run into some issues with actually feeling included and feeling involved in CSS spaces. And we have a similar tab for conferences. Again, these are just some spaces that we really admire for the work that they've done to diversify computational social science and to also just make computational social science more available to everyone. And Gabriel will tell us more about the literature app.
Thanks, Katherine. Yeah, so the literature app is sort of our big new thing that we've developed during the last year. There was a lot of changes in the website. If you've been to this website before, it looked a lot different. Taylor's sort of aesthetic choices made it a much better looking website, which is really important and makes it a lot more enjoyable to roll with it. But the literature app originally came from our, we started with a collective exercise at counting who is cited in CSS syllabi, in a set of CSS syllabi. And unsurprisingly to the people in this audience, and I think the people in CSS generally, we found that there's an absolutely astonishing level of lack of diversity in who is being cited in slides and in syllabi for CSS. And so this got us kind of thinking about the way that varyCSS in particular can help alleviate that. And one thing that we thought we could be really good at as sort of as a resource that originally just lists speakers, then started listing conferences. Well, we could also be listing pieces of scholarship, really top CSS scholarship from underrepresented scholars in the field of CSS that will allow people who already have syllabi to update their syllabi, people who are building new CSS syllabi to build them in a little bit more of a diverse way, but also students who are currently enrolled in CSS courses to augment what their professor is talking to them about with this other work that is equally as interesting and as representative of the topics we need to talk about in these courses, but are just not being cited because there's this core set of CSS articles that everybody cites and that are obviously all white guys. And if we don't start breaking that a little bit, breaking that mold, it's really tough. It's really easy to start building a core set of scholars that as a discipline we look on. I'm coming from sociology and we have the exact same problem. So part of this effort too is to get CSS at its sort of birthplace, at birth moment, and keep that from happening, or at least integrate diverse voices into the core. And so if we go into the, if you want to check out, you click on our first version here, you'll see it pulls up actually our Shiny app. So some of you might be doing our Shiny apps in the context of the second week of SICSS. If you are, good luck. They're pretty tough, but you'll also know if you do that this is actually a really basic version. It's using a lot of defaults from stuff that I could find around the internet. And essentially the way that it's got it set up is that we're pulling from a shared Zotero database into a CSV file, and then reading as a source that CSV file into our Shiny app that allows us to scroll through and highlight different pieces of the articles with the metadata from the CSV And on the left there, if you go up, Katherine, real quick on our searches here. Yeah, so the 4 searches we have for starters here are last names of authors, we have the journal name, and then I put in a general keyword search that will go through the title and the abstract, and as well as the date. And the goal here is to make it as easy as possible for people to go in and say, okay, let's give it a shot here. Will you type, yeah, exactly. Or type like algorithm. If somebody's teaching a class on algorithmic inequality, and it's like, okay, we know a couple of big pieces written by the typical people who write these pieces, but here are some other options you could write about by people that we feel are underrepresented in the field. And so this is something that we're really still working on. We're still trying to add new things like tags that will tell us, for example, things like where is the research done, who is doing the research in what geographic area, as well as specific maybe topics within CSS that are useful for people to highlight. If we wanted to know everything about machine learning, for example, that could be one of these tags. So we're trying to think about ways to make this even easier. And we really do welcome your ideas at this level. Like if you can, during this Q&A, if you can tell us some good ideas, if you want to join us and sit at the table with us and chat, that's also great. But just during our Q&A, if you have some ideas of how we can make that more readable and some interesting tags that can help do that, it would be really great. And ultimately, I think the goal for us is to develop extra layers on top of this literature database. So for example, we're thinking about streamlining the tagging system so that it could be sort of a collective endeavor, and we could have an easy front end that would highlight an abstract and let people tag, which would make it a little bit easier, but also pull maybe like a geographic map of who is in our database so we can see if there's some sort of missing holes nationality wise, which there will be, because we know that most literature is European and North American, but we can work towards alleviating that a little bit if we know where it's happening, as well as looking at citation gaps, which would be an interesting next step here. Seeing where underrepresented scholars are citing each other and where the separated clusters are, and starting to begin developing strategy to bridge those clusters, I think would be a really fascinating way to go forward with that. But one thing that's really tough, and that you can imagine with this sort of app, is you need to select the article. So our team has been selecting articles, and that's created a lot of interesting conversation about what CSS article should we highlight? What is a CSS article? And so I'll let Katherine sort of close us off with some thoughts about that I think will be really generative for the Q&A.
Yeah, absolutely. So thank you, Gabriel, for explaining the app, where it's at, where we're heading, and what our thoughts are. And yeah, I really want to come back to this idea that like we, varyCSS, are a collective that cares about people more than we care about science. So like we care about what we're doing with science for the sake of helping people and for the sake of improving people's lives. We care about the groups and the conferences, the literature app. We care about the speakers that we're listing on our website so that we can create networks that will strengthen all of our power in science, because as you know, we have a huge, terrible history of like white supremacy, of power being concentrated in places that it shouldn't be concentrated. And something that we can do, that we can work on as a collective, is to put our time and put our energy into remedying that. And so, yeah, we're focused on answering questions like, what is CSS? Why does it matter? What should be, can be, has been defined as CSS? What constitutes an article that we might include on our literature app? What constitutes a type of scholar that we would want to list on our speaker site? And the answers that we've come up with so far are basically like, we want to give that power back to the people. Like we want, if you want to be doing CSS, then like we want that power to be in your hands to determine that. Yes, so we're really excited to share our work. We're really excited for you to be joining us and to want to know more about our work. And we would love it if you could be part of our search to answer these questions, but really just to like continue asking more and more questions and have conversations about this so that we can continue sharing the power. Thank you so much for watching our presentation. We are always happy for new people to come join us as it says on the slide. And you can do that by going to our website, which we've shown you, varyCSS.org. You can also email us at varycss@gmail.com. we really look forward to hearing from you.
Thank you all for joining us. I know our participants are looking forward to live Q&A with you all during the Institute in June. Thank you all for watching. For more information on SICSS-Howard Mathematica, visit our website, follow us on social media, and join our email list.